Today we're going to be working on a 2016 Buick Encore. We're going to be removing the display up here and the radio down here to make our connections, and we'll show you how to do that. Alright, so first part to take out the radio, we'll be removing this piece of trim all along the bottom. We're going to be using a pry tool for that. You can just pry on the top two corners to take those loose, and then from there if you just pull on it, it'll come out. There's going to be a 2-pin connector down here that we'll need to remove. There's going to be a latch right on top. Once that's out of the way, we're going to have these 4 7mm bolts here that we'll need to take out. Once those are out of the way, then this panel will come off. And we're going to have 2 connectors here. The bottom one's kind of difficult to unplug, so if you just unplug the top one, you can leave it hanging down to the side. And from here, we'll be removing the top 2 7mm. And now our radio is able to come out, and we'll be able to make our connections here, and we'll show you that next. Alright, so we'll remove the connectors now to put in ours. We're going to need to disconnect this one, the gray one in the middle, and we'll disconnect the rest of these to make it easy to pull out. There we go. And we'll be taking our first cable here, which is going to be our MCF GML. And we'll connect that here to this harness, which will be the 44 pin. And then we've got the 20 pin harness right here. We'll need to connect that to the other side of the T-harness. And this one right here we'll leave disconnected, and we're going to be plugging in our GM Mini USB cable, this part right here, into the back of the radio. And so now that we've got these connected, we're going to go ahead and move on to the display so we can run all of our wires together. Alright, so we'll be taking out the display next, and to start with that, we'll take off the top shroud here, and we're going to be using our pry tool for that. And if you just get on either corner and pry it out, and then work around the back, pop the 2 back clips out. And from there, we're just going to work around the top ledge here. And there's going to be 2 clips in the middle that mainly hold it in. And that'll be these 2 right here. Those go into the top there, and then we've got the 2 in the back here. And once we've got that out of the way, we've got 2 7mm bolts back here that we'll need to remove, so we'll show you those next. Alright, so we're going to take out these 2 7mm back here. And that's the one on the passenger side. We have one right over here on the driver's side as well. And now that we've got those removed, we can move on to taking out the display. Alright, so now that we have the 2 7mm out, we'll just tilt the display forward and then pull up. There we go. And it's going to be these 2 clips that hold it in, and then we've got these little retention clips on the side here that just seat in at the angle. And now that we've got that loose, it'll actually spin around, and we'll unplug the 2 of these. And this is going to be where we connect our video cable. Alright, so now the display is taken out, we can go ahead and hook up our GVMF cable. We plug in the female side here into the factory male. And then we'll be running this down the same way that this factory cable goes, so it'll end up behind the radio. And then we'll leave this one loose up top so we can plug it into the display. So we're going to go ahead and run this down here. You kind of have to push it at an angle towards the center of the vents. There we go. Now that that's fed through, we can go ahead and hook our display back up. To get this back in, we're just going to tilt it at an angle, line up the front, and then push it down in. And then we'll put our 2 more 7mm back in. There we go, now we've got the display back in. Alright, so now before we put the radio back in, we're going to run all of our cables to the glove box. And we're going to start with the display cable here that we just ran down. And there's going to be a hole right here where you can get straight through to the glove box. And we're just going to be running all of our wires through there. Alright, so we've got our power harness and our display harness through. Next we'll be running through our USB cable, the GM Mini USB. And now that we've got all that there, we can go ahead and put the radio back in. So we'll show you that next. Alright, so we're ready to connect everything now that we've got it all run to the glove box. So we'll put in our power harness first. Next we'll put in our USB. This is our GM Mini USB, not the factory one. And that'll plug into this port here. Put in our 20-pin connector. And we're going to hook up our 2 antennas. And then our last connector here is going to be similar to the one behind the display. Again, make sure you don't plug in our display cable here, make sure you plug it in behind the display. Alright, now that we've got all that fitted, we can go ahead and get this back in. And sometimes you might have to move some harnesses around to get everything to fit. We also want to get this harness out from here since it goes to our front display, or front panel I should say. That'll be this one here. Alright, and we're just going to adjust this more to make sure the top goes flush, so we'll be right back. Alright, so next we can go ahead and mount the radio back in. We'll put the 2 in top up here, and we'll leave these out because the button panel that goes over, the screws go in there. Now that we've got those in, we'll connect our 8-pin connector up here back to the button panel. And then that'll push right over the top. And then we'll have our 4 screws that go in there. Alright, once we've got the button panel in, the last thing we'll be putting on will be this front piece of trim here. Don't forget to connect this connector. And it's actually got a retention clip on it that goes right here in the bottom. And after that, this piece just pops right back in. And now we've got everything successfully installed. Alright, so now that we've got everything connected, we can go ahead and plug in the V-line. We're going to start with our 20-pin main harness here. So that'll plug in there. And then we've got the display cable. That'll plug in on this side. It's also the GVMF cable in this vehicle. And then lastly, we have our GM Mini USB, which will go in the USB pigtail here. And once we've done that, we're ready to test everything. And we just want to confirm that the USB source is showing up and that the V-line takes over in the USB/iPod source.
The answer's